Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Cities Skylines 2 and welcome back to Columbia County. In today's video, we are jumping in and taking a look at update 1.2, which is out right now for Cities Skylines 2 and brings a bunch of amazing new features and beautiful new assets, including parking lot roads. You don't need the road builder mod to build these anymore. You just have them in the game by default. There are some new parking holes, which includes this smaller of the two new parking holes. There is a roadside tree selector, meaning you can put whatever tree on whatever road you want. Service vehicle parking means you can now see your police cars outside of your police stations and your ambulances outside of your medical centers. And there are a whole bunch of new props and decals alongside 10 new pocket parks, which are teeny tiny little parks that you can put in all different places in your city. There is a lot going on with update 1.2. There are a lot of bug fixes in update 1.2, and we are not looking at all of the new features and assets in update 1.2 in this video, but we're gonna look at a lot of it and we're gonna have a lot of fun with a whole lot of it. So with all of that out of the way, let's get to it. At the time of recording, I am playing an early pre-release version of update 1.2 for Cities Skylines 2, and that means that some of the mods that I use just don't work. And unfortunately, that includes the mod, or mods, I don't remember which, that handle the importing of certain assets, and that includes the decals that I covered my power plant in. And it also includes the decals and surfaces that I used for a lot of this industrial space, and even the decals that I used around my educational facility over on the other side of town. What we're looking at here is the default decal that goes around these buildings. I replaced it with the base game decal because I kind of needed this to exist, and I'm gambling a little bit in the hopes that some of what's missing will come back when the mods get updated and some of it won't. I'm hoping the surfaces stay away so they don't overlap. I might need to do something about that. And I'm hoping that since we have these gray blotches over here, we're going to see these decals come back once the mod gets updated. But that's not really what today is about. Today is about update 1.2, patch 1.2, whatever it's called in the end. I've got no idea. It's kind of another detailers patch though, and I'm really excited about this one. And I was thinking I could do another one of my Here's Everything New videos, or I could just sit down and play some Cities Skylines 2. It feels like a little bit since I've done that. Lately, there's just been so much stuff for the game that almost every video has been a here's what's new in this, here's what's new in that. I want to just play some Cities Skylines 2, so that is what we're going to do today. And I want to get started by going in here and dezoning all of this space. I want to dezone this space, and I'm going to remove all of the industry that we have over on the far side of town. I've been talking about doing this for so long. It is about time that we start clearing out this space because it's going to take a long time for all of the ground pollution to go away, and that's kind of a big deal. If we have a little bit of a look at our overlays, we can see that there is just a huge amount of ground pollution underneath this industrial space, which is problem number one. And that's why this building up here is complaining about ground pollution. It's relatively nearby. Problem number two is that there's also air pollution. And it's blowing in from the other industrial site. It's blowing out from this industrial site. That is a problem that's potentially going to stop us from putting a suburb out here the way I kind of wanted to. Now, you might be wondering why I got rid of all of this zoning that was in here in a relatively central part of Blackwater, and that's because I want to start dealing with some of the inevitable, that's the word I'm looking for, demand that's going to come in with some new residential zoning, because I do want new residential zoning. I do want to build out another suburb, and when you build another suburb, you're going to have demand for healthcare and education, which is where I want to get started today. Now, if we take a little bit of a look into education, we are lacking when it comes to elementary schools and high schools. I think college education is going to be fine for a very long time, so we don't really need to worry about that. And then universities, that's way down the line. We can look at getting a university into Columbia County, but for today, at least for now, for the start, I want to focus on this little space. And so what I'm going to do is go in and I'm just going to take out these road sections. I know that was a custom little alleyway that was in there, but I'm not really worried about getting rid of that because alleyways like that happen to just exist in Cities Skylines 2 now. There is a one-way alleyway. This isn't the one that I made with Road Builder. This is just one that's in the game. It's as a part of update 1.2. So I can just go through here with a little one-way alleyway. It's got parking along the side, which is great. And I could continue it the entire way down here if I wanted to. But what I would like to do is pay attention to the fact that we have Franklin Street here, which I'm pretty sure, going as far back as episode 6, someone suggested we'd rename it to something like Franklin Road or Franklin Boulevard, and I kind of like Franklin Boulevard since it is basically the main road that goes from east to west in Blackwater. So Franklin Boulevard going right down the middle there. That's sort of our main road through the place. So my thinking was, why don't we go in and do something like a little community elementary school to start with, to get rid of some of the elementary demand that we have. This is a modern architecture building, but I'm kind of okay with that. I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks pretty solid on that corner. And I think it's important to keep in mind that we do have some bus connections here as well. Now they're going to be swamped with people for a little while because a lot of these people, I think, are potentially going to be homeless. I don't know. These might just be some really busy bus stops. Either way, there's going to be a lot of people going for public transport since I just got rid of their houses. But what I'd like to do is just focus on this. And I'm thinking we go in, we get the extension wing to bring this from 300 to 450 students. And I think we get the playground at the back as well for a bit of bonus outdoor recreation. And for once, that little bug that happens to surfaces in Cities Skylines 2 where they extend over to roads, it's actually wound up being a good thing, but I'd like to go in and just do that properly so that this grass surface just extends all the way down to here and all the way down to here. And I just want to do that properly. I'm also thinking I might change out this road for something else, such as the small pedestrian street, which is another new addition to Cities Skylines 2 in this update. I think that's going to be a fantastic shout. And then alongside this thing, I was kind of thinking we play around with some of the parking lot roads. So we have this 2-lane angled parking road. Again, this is one of the new roads in this update. We can just place it in there, something like this. And that gives us plenty of parking alongside this new elementary school. I'm also thinking I might just connect this guy through the middle so that you can walk from here right down towards the medical center, right down towards the middle of Blackwater, if that's something you want to do. And I think we should get rid of that zoning there as well, because that's just a little bit unnecessary. And this is basically what I'm thinking for our little, I don't know, urban elementary school. I like this a lot, and I do want it to be on Franklin Boulevard because I think it's important that we have those connections, that we have transit coming all the way down here with these bus stops. I think that's going to be a good thing. And I think I also want to go in here and just make this look a little bit better. So we'll go in with some grass on that median. I think that's a good idea. I think we'll do grass on this median as well. And we can now go in with some trees. And this is another new thing you can do in this update. You can just go in and set whatever trees you want on whatever roads you want, which I think is kind of a big deal. That was something you could do in Cities Skylines 1. You can now do it in Cities Skylines 2. And I think it does wonders for detailing a little bit of a space there. So that's going to be where that elementary school goes. We have this small pedestrian street here, but we also have high school demand. So maybe it would be an idea to go in here with a modern high school as well. Now, I'd love to have it sort of facing this way, but it's a little bit too wide to do that. Unless, I mean, I could put it into this space over here, but it's a little bit far away. I could introduce some transit connections to it, but I kind of like the idea of having a lot of my education in this space. So my thinking is maybe that little pedestrian path, little pedestrian road is going to have to go away, and maybe this guy is going to live right about there. And I don't mind that too much. I like that we have all this grass alongside it. I do want to see what my options are for extending this, which is unfortunately a little bit limited, but it's not the end of the world. We also have the student dormitories, which can go at the back there, which honestly might not look too bad. And we have the extension wings for the front. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Extension wings at the front. We'll do student dormitories at the back so that we have that little bit of an extension to this road. We can have some grass in front of them if we want to. And then on the side, do I want to do the additional teaching building? Is that a little bit too tall? Is kind of what I'm wondering. And you know, I kind of feel like it is. I feel like it's a little too tall for this area. I think it's a little bit too much. If we could separate this from this asset, it would be perfect. Unfortunately, we can't do that. So we're not going to. Basically, that's going to be the be all end all of that. We're just not going to. I would like to go through with another bit of parking though. And I want to use another one of these parking roads. I just don't know which one. I'm kind of looking at a one-way road, so it would fit perfectly here. But I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if that's a bad idea. I think I might turn it around just so the parking is on the other side. I think that might look better with this guy right here. Although I'd be lying if I said I wasn't really tempted to put this building back in, or not back in, but in here. Because then we have that road going right alongside the building and it kind of just works. So I think we're just going to have to deal with this existing here, which is a little bit unfortunate. It's a little out of place, but you know what? It's not as tall as these guys, so it's not the end of the world. I think that's fine. I think that's a pretty good development for education. So let's go through here and let's figure out if I can tidy up this surface, get some paths across here, make this space look all nice and fancy and detailed. And that'll be a nice new development for this area. I think it looks a little better than what we had before, which, I mean, it was just generic zoning before. So this is good. This is a good development. So kind of annoyingly, I can't really seem to do anything about this weird little corner that we have going on with this surface. I'm also getting really tired of the noise of this water tower here. But there is some good news. There are some new parks in this update, and that includes things like this tiny park, which I'm kind of thinking I could just put there. And then I could go in and kind of just modify these surfaces a little bit so that hopefully you don't really notice what's going on. Now, I don't know if I want to use that park specifically. I'm really, you know what? I'm going to pause. I'm going to just turn this off because the noise of that thing is still going. It's still going. Okay. So turning it off doesn't get rid of the really annoying sound that it makes. Oh, it's gone now. Oh, no, it's back. Never mind. Okay. All right. You know what? We'll just have the camera out here so I can't hear that thing. But what I'd like to do is go in with some of these small parks. We have things like the little mini park right here. We have the urban parkette. We have a little canopy covered park. So I think we'll go for some of the mini parks. Seem like a pretty good idea. I think we'll go for there, and that might just be fine, really. Just doing something like that might be a good shout. I kind of want to do them in a few different spots though. Maybe something like the canopy covered one, just in the middle there for a little bit of symmetry with these guys. And then if I wanted to, I could bring some surfaces kind of out and around these so that you can kind of feasibly walk around them, but I don't think we need to do that. For this space down here, we have got more parks. We've got things like the canopy covered corridor. We have this modern pocket park, which is pretty great looking. We have this wide pocket park as well. We have a lot of different options for what we can do here, and I kind of really like this one, but I think something like this guy through the middle here might be a bit of a better shout. And then going around and sort of bringing all of these surfaces together is probably going to be a good shout as well. So we'll get ourselves some tiles. We'll get this one, and we're going to replace those. I don't know that I love that. I think I like that more. We already have that surface in here. We're going to get the same surface in here and the same surface down here. And then in the middle of this guy, we could maybe swap it out for that one, or we could swap it out for that one. I think I'm going to go for the tan one just because it's a little bit more interesting. And that just gives us a bunch of outdoor recreation in this area. It gives us a bit more detailing in this area. And those are a bunch of parks that people will use, which is what we're looking for. And then for the rest of the space, I think I'm just going to go in with some grass, to be quite honest. So we'll use the fill bucket here, and we can just fill in a bunch of this space. The fill bucket, by the way, is a mod. It's not a part of the update, unfortunately, but it does just let me go through here and fill up those spaces that little bit quicker, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And then I think as a last little detail in here, I'm just going to go in with some bushes is what I'm going to do. I'm also realizing I can totally put trees down the side of this road. I can absolutely do that. So we are absolutely going to do that. And we can go in with just a little bit of grass down the side there, so they're not parking on the other side of the road away from the parking lots. I think that's important. And I do think that looks pretty good. I think we could also bring a little bit of a grassy median down here with some more trees. And on the other side, I'm not really too worried. The other side's, it is the back of the facility, so it's not the end of the world if it's not quite as nicely detailed. Although I would, like I said, like to just go in here with a little something, just a few little bushes across here, a few little bushes across here, and a few little bushes down to that corner. We're going to cross. You can see, by the way, the fill bucket for surfaces isn't perfect, but it's good enough. We're not really gonna look at this place all that closely in the not too distant future, so I'm really not all that concerned if it doesn't fill it in absolutely perfectly. So we'll get some bushes across there. I sort of want to put some trees in this back part as well, so we'll go for maybe 15 meters apart, and we'll use some slightly smaller birch trees. So something kind of like this. So we'll get 3 of them across there. We can get 3 of them across there. And for these spaces down here, do I want to do more birch trees? I think, honestly, I might. I think at least down here, we'll do some birch trees and then maybe leave that bit open. I think that looks a little bit better. This bit being open as well is pretty good. I think having that open space is going to be important. And then up here, I think we do exactly the same thing. So I think we go through with just a nice little row of birch trees. I'm noticing some people walking across here. I'm not really too worried about that. I'm just going to surround this space in a bunch of bushes as well. And you know, all things considered, I'm actually really happy with how this space has turned out. I don't for 1 second think that this is going to be enough parking for 2 school facilities here, but I think it looks pretty good. I love surface level parking. I've said it for years and years. It's the same reason that I like to put my train lines above ground, the reason I like trams over subways, or at least I like surface level subways. I like to see things happening. I like to see things moving. So I like to see my cars parking at the sides of the road. I like to see them using the little parking lot roads. So I could just put some underground parking facility in here. I think it would look a lot less interesting. And even if this isn't super realistic, it looks really good. And while we're talking about parking, that totally reminds me that there is now service vehicle parking in a lot of the service buildings. So this medical clinic, you might notice, the ambulances actually park off to the side now, or at least 5 of them do. They do reverse through that wall, which is a little bit unfortunate, but they actually park outside the building, which I think looks really cool, especially when they light up and start heading out through my wall. It's such a cool little detail. This is actually something that I've known that this was going to be a thing. I just didn't know when this was going to be a thing. And of course, I'm not allowed to tell you about the things that I know or don't know about City Skylines 2. So this is such a cool little thing that when I first heard about it, I was so excited for it, and it works in such a beautifully simple way. And to show you that, we're going to come out to my road maintenance depot just on the outskirts of Blackwater. So this building has not been updated yet to have any service vehicle parking. And there's essentially a very easy way I can do this. I can either replace the building, or I can go in and I can get an upgrade for the building. So the extra garage is going to give me 5 maintenance vehicles. If I plop it on there, you can see the vehicles down the side. If I just do this, we now have service vehicle parking for this guy, which looks amazing. It is such a cool little detail, just seeing the vehicles actually sitting there, actually moving out and doing their thing. And it applies to a lot of different buildings. If we go down to the Transit Authority, for example, this has not been upgraded yet, but if I go in here and I want to get, say, an extra garage, you can see the vehicles start to pop up right there, which is very, very cool. I would also like to get the electric upgrade on this. I know we're losing money, and I've seen a couple of people pointing out the fact that we're losing money. I'm not super worried about the fact that we're losing money right now, because it seems to fluctuate in a really weird way, and I'm not quite sure how it does that. And I would also imagine that adding 2 new education facilities, I mean, how expensive are, yeah, 107,000 a month and 43,000 a month. This is also full. So yeah, we're spending a fair bit of money on education there. Now, when it comes to this guy, I want to go in here and I want to grab this extra garage. I'm going to put it, you know what? I might actually upgrade this with an extra garage. I was going to put it here and then bulldoze it just to get this update to happen, but I'm very tempted to just, no, I don't think we need it. I don't think we need it. I think I'd be wasting money if I did that. So I'm just going to build it here and then bulldoze it so that we get the vehicles sitting out here. Basically, you just have to update the building and it happens. And it looks great. It looks really, really good. I love seeing the buses sitting around. I love seeing the ambulances sitting around. The same happens with police vehicles as well. So down here, this guy's been updated to have some service vehicle parking alongside. So we have something like a Chevy Capri right there. We have what I'm assuming is supposed to be a Dodge Charger right there. I do know my police cars a little bit more than I should. I'm not going to lie. It's such a cool little detail. I absolutely love that that's a thing. Now, coming back to this new development, there is a new transport building that has been added in update 1.2, and it is this little guy, the small taxi depot. Now, I don't think we actually have a taxi depot anywhere in Columbia County right now. So I was thinking this little guy could just get added in here somewhere. It is, from what I gather, basically a wall-to-wall building, which is great. I just don't really have the space for it, which is really unfortunate. But I'm looking here and I'm wondering, do I want to be a little bit ridiculous and take down, oh, that building's, I thought that building, that tall bit was one building and this was another, but no, I actually can't do that, unfortunately, unless I take this guy out, but it's a lot of redevelopment. Basically, I want to find somewhere in here to put that little taxi depot, and for the life of me, I've got no idea where that should be or how that should work. I'm also noticing that the back of this building is on this road. I don't think that should be the case. I really, I'm not too sure about that. Same with these guys. These guys are all backwards. Well, this one isn't, but these guys definitely are. And so you know what? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to redevelop this little site because I think we can get the little taxi depot into here, and I think it'll look halfway decent. So the taxi depot is basically going to live right there, which is a bit silly looking, but I'm kind of looking forward to doing this. I think it's going to look kind of cool. I might put it down there. It might actually be better down there. I kind of like here though. I think here's kind of a good spot for it. And then what I'd like to do is go in here. I might use urban promenades. Would that be too much? It might be a little much to do like an urban promenade build in here. That might be a little bit silly. So you know what? I don't think we will do that. I think we'll just go for the North American mixed housing that we have in this lot already. And my thinking is if I let this one build, that gives me a corner building. That gives me a corner building. That gives me a corner building. And then this gives me two smaller buildings. So we can now nicely surround that taxi depot and it just lives in that little corner. It can also be upgraded? What? I wasn't expecting that at all. What does this do? This gives me 4 more vehicles. It kind of gets rid of the charm though. I like this guy. I kind of like it as it is, you know? I like it sort of having that little alleyway, so I don't think we need it. This is going to 1/4 of the taxi fleet is replaced with electric taxis. I like the sound of that. And this is going to allow taxis to pick up passengers from all over the city, not just dedicated taxi stands. Oh, it makes it a little bit taller. Yes. That looks amazing. And I think it's going to look really, really cool with some buildings around it as well. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm not going to lie. Oh, and look at this. The taxis are heading out as well, which is fantastic news. Oh, I love it so much. I really, really do. I love that we've got that thing in there. It's got how many vehicles? 8, and they've all headed out already. Okay, we might, we might want to consider upgrading this, but for now, I think it's going to be totally fine. Oh, and there's the buildings coming in as well. See, this is kind of why I was thinking putting it the other way around would be good, because then it would be against the backs of these buildings, but I actually think this might look better just having this little alleyway for the taxis between all of these buildings. That's such a cool little detail. Is this thing recolorable? It totally is. I don't know if I want to recolor it because the taxis are bright yellow, but that's very, very cool. That's such a cool little building. It's not something I was expecting either, but I can 100% see why it exists. Like a little wall-to-wall taxi depot for your, you know, downtown areas. It fits perfectly in here, so I love this. Okay, so now coming back to this development, I mentioned earlier about it not being super realistic with the amount of parking that we have, and I'm not going to go all out making it realistic because I don't want to overdo it in terms of parking. But then I remembered that another thing that's available in this update is the small parking building. It's a new multi-story parking lot, essentially, that could live right in here if I wanted it to. There's also this guy, the multi-level parking building, which is a bit of a chungus. And I don't necessarily think I want to build this in here because it might be a little bit much. It would be kind of cool. And I'm pretty sure it'll work as a wall-to-wall building, which, as I say that out loud, has me really, really tempted to build it because I do think a wall-to-wall multi-story parking lot would look kind of cool, but it seems excessive. It seems like way too much, given that we have this huge parking lot down here, we have this parking in here, and we do have pretty good bus connections to this area. So I think what I'm going to do is get rid of Dean Street for now, and I want to go in here with this guy, the small parking building. I think we can get away with this guy. I don't think we need to go too crazy with parking facilities here, and I'm kind of tempted to put it down this way so that people aren't turning off. It's not another turn off of a relatively major road. So right about there is kind of my thinking for it. I think it looks okay. I mean, it's just a multi-story parking lot, right? It's nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy, but it's I think it'd be cheaper. We'll go down to like $3 to park here. And then for this side of it, I think we're probably just going to do some buildings. I would like to come through here though and see if I can maybe put that little pedestrian street back though. So I need to remember what that icon looks like because for the life of me, I don't. Small pedestrian street right there. And we want to go, I'm kind of tempted to do this. So this puts a nice little crosswalk here, which honestly isn't the worst thing in the world. It means you could, you know, cross the street and get into the high school. So I think I'm going to go to there. And I think what I'm going to do is see if I can just get this to snap right in the middle there. So it comes straight back down this road, which is what we're looking for. I don't think we're going to do an S-bend. I think we're just going to do a little angle here because I think that's all that's really necessary. I don't think we need to go crazy with this one. I think that's probably just fine. And then some buildings in here seems like a solid idea. Some kind of building in here seems like a pretty good idea. So let's do exactly that. We'll just go in with the North American mixed use zoning again. We'll go for something a little bit smaller on this side, which is going to be a little 2x2 building. I guess we'll go bigger, which is probably going to be a clone of this building. You know what? A little 2x2 is probably fair enough, actually. We'll do the 2x2. Over here, we'll try and do... Oh, I don't know. I do need something smaller. I don't want any huge buildings here, so I think a little... And it crashed. Oh, that's the problem. That's the problem. I don't know when the last autosave was. So thankfully, the last autosave really wasn't that far back, and it also gave me a moment to realize I could do this, which I think is pretty cool. We can just surround these buildings in some pedestrian streets. We get a nice little square of 2x2 buildings, which I think will fill this space in nicely. It does mean that we have this extra little bit of road here, which isn't great. And it also means that I think I need to just move these bus stop signs down a little bit so that the buses aren't stopping pretty much at that intersection. So we'll just grab these guys, shuffle them down to about there, and everything should be fine. I'm also kind of thinking that just while we're here, we might as well get some grass onto this spot, get some trees on there, and then swap them out once again for some poplar trees, which I want to be about that size is what I'm looking for. And I love that. I love that that's a thing we can do in City Skylines 2 now. It makes me so happy that we can replace the trees on the roads. And you know what? That little square of buildings was a pretty good shout. I think this one needs to be redeveloped though, because it's not a corner building, or at least it's not a proper corner building. And then we should have 4 of these. You know what? Hold on a minute. Why am I doing it that way? Let me just do this. This is that. There we go. That's much easier. I'm not going to wait for it to build. I can just do that. That's so much simpler. And I've got to say, this is really cool looking. You actually get to see the vehicles going up into this multi-story parking lot, which makes me really tempted to build the bigger one because I think it would look really cool, actually, seeing all the vehicles going around it. But for now, I'm going to leave this be because I've had an idea for this space back here, and I sort of want to bring that idea to life. So I'm going to lock the building level in this guy, and I'm going to bring this surface down here a little bit. So all the way down to here and all the way down to there. I want to fill in that little space in the middle. So we'll do this so it connects in fully. And I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to let people walk through here. So we're going to get ourselves a little invisible pedestrian path. I'm going to turn off all of my snapping and whatnot. And basically it's just going to go like this the entire way through that building. So up to about there. And now people can just walk straight through. I don't know if that's realistic. I don't know if they should. It does look like it's more for vehicles, but immediately we have people doing it. So that seems like a pretty good shout. I'm also thinking probably not a bad idea to continue the usual bushes around here. I do really like these bushes. I don't think I did actually, you know, I was going to say, I don't think I liked these when the game sort of first came out, but I'm pretty sure I used this style of bush in my first episode of City Skylines 2. I think I used them to surround a cemetery, that original big cemetery, the big graveyard that I built right in the middle of Linden for that first episode. I think I used these guys to surround all those paths. So I might be lying if I said I didn't really like these originally. That might that might just straight up be a lie, because I think I used them a lot when Cities 2 first came out. You know, all things considered, as much as this really is just a new parking facility, it's such a cool bit of detail. Again, I'm repeating myself, but seeing the vehicles going in and out of it and up and down, it's just really, really cool, especially next to all the new parking lot roads. And I love this. I really, really do. It's such a cool looking space. Anyway, we have more that we need to get done today. I'm just going to sit and stare at this if I don't move on. So let's get to work on a couple of other things. And the first of those things is going to be figuring out what's going on with this green bus line. It is looping around in ways that I do not understand. I think it's a bit messed up from when I put this railroad road in here. So I'm going to go through and just get rid of all these different waypoints, which actually that did it. That tidied it up pretty quickly there, which is amazing news. That's exactly what I was looking for. What I'd also like to do though is come through here and get myself just a couple of new bus stop signs. I want one right here, and I want one right here. That probably could do with being a shelter, but it should be all right. And then my thinking is that these buses kind of turn around here and start heading back. Why don't we have them go back through that suburb? That seems like it would be a pretty solid idea. So that's kind of what I'm going to do with it. So it's going to go to there. It is going to go to there. And then it just goes straight back the way it came in. I'm also thinking this stop is probably not necessary given how close it is to this set of stops up here. So that kind of narrows things down a little bit there, but it gives us a bit more of an obvious line rather than that whole mess that was going on. So now it just crosses the city. It does make a stop up in the main station. It goes to the suburbs and down to the other station, and it just goes back. The green line is, I think that makes more sense. I think that makes more sense. It probably makes more sense than that red line. What is that red line? What is this? Oh, that's the train line. Okay, I got really confused there. It makes a bit more sense than the red line, but yeah, that's a whole lot better. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm also wondering, can I swap out those buses for some electric buses? I'd kind of like to do that. So instead of using the regular ones, I'll go for electric buses right there. I might swap out all of them for electric buses. And we should see. So this is, oh, that's not good. Oh, oh no. So it turns out we're okay. And we do have the electric buses heading out now, which is great news. I do want to see though, as the green buses come back, do they just go in and park now? Oh, they do. Oh, that's very cool. So the old green buses don't just disappear. They just end up sitting there. So another feature of update 1.2 is the introduction of a traffic routes tool. So I can click on this button and see where this guy's trying to go, coming from my industrial side. And we can see that he's trying to head all the way down here. He's driving the entire way down to Madison Street, where he's going to park, and then on foot, he's going to walk all the way over to where I assume he happens to live, which is a really, really interesting tool because it means we can now see where everybody's going. So you are going in much of the same direction. You're going to park up at Sycamore Street and then walk home. You are going to be going much the same way. You're parking down here and then heading home. You, for example, are heading all the way down this way. You're parking in that little parking lot and then walking around the corner to that building. And then we'll look at one more just because I'm really curious. You're heading all the way down through here. You are going to go and park in this parking lot and walk quite a distance to get home. That's like a block and a bit. That's pretty good. Okay. It's just, I don't know how I'm going to necessarily use this yet because I don't think I have enough traffic in Blackwater to really need to worry about a traffic routes tool, but it's a very cool feature nonetheless. I mean, this bridge gets backed up occasionally, but generally it's only during rush hour, and generally it's because it's the main bridge into Blackwater from Anchor Junction and from Sheffield Downs, so it kind of makes sense. And while we're up here, I want to take a second to mention that there's also a bunch of new roundabouts. So things like the concrete roundabout with a tree can be placed in here now. It looks kind of interesting. We've got this one, which is the concrete roundabout with illumination. Tree and bushes, I don't think that one's new. I don't think that one's new either. There are things like the small floral roundabout. There's also ceramics, there's asymmetric centers. I don't know where this would get used. That's very, very strange looking. I do like the light in the middle of it though. There's a nice little flower bed. There's this one, which is very cool looking, if a little bit probably too fancy for being next to an industrial site, although it does connect down there, but I think it's probably not what we're going to go for. I think I'm just going to go for this. Just kind of a cool looking new roundabout that we can play with. I could go for the slightly larger one as well, which might be a bit much. I think that's probably a bit much. Might turn off anarchy and place it anyway though. No, I think it's good. I like that. I like new roundabouts. I like that we're getting all these options for just new cosmetic things in Cities Skylines 2. I wasn't expecting new roundabouts either, but here we are, and they look pretty cool, all things considered. They really do. So I'm not going to complain about it. I'll put a slightly larger roundabout there, I think, because I've kind of got some ideas where at some point I want to extend the regional road across here and connect it down this way. That'll probably happen when we build a new district up in this space. And then over here, I think this is probably fine. I don't think we need to change that roundabout at all. But I am thinking we could probably change the roundabout right in the middle of Blackwater. I just don't know what it should be changed to. This one's kind of cool, but I like the tree in there. I don't know. I think this one's probably what we're going to go for, given it has the concrete around it and it keeps the tree and stuff like that. It's very similar to what's here already, but probably slightly more interesting looking. I do really like that one. Maybe we zoom out and get a look at this from a distance to kind of get an idea of what it would look like. We have got the asymmetric one, which I would be lying if I said I wasn't tempted as much as I don't love it. I do like the big yellow circle. We have a large mosaic, which I think is, I don't like the large version of this. We have these stripes, which I don't love either. And we have the floral one, which, no, I think we're going to go for the asymmetrical one is what we're going to do in there. I think that's the call. It's got these beautiful big lights up at the top here. I say beautiful. They're not, they're floodlights. They're not necessarily beautiful, but I think it's a cool detail. And I could imagine that at nighttime, it might look really cool. In fact, to be honest with you, we don't even have to imagine it. It does look pretty cool in here at nighttime. It's not really lighting it up the way I thought it would, but it's still pretty cool looking. And by the way, looking at Blackwater and Columbia County at night, this isn't something I do very often. In fact, this is the second time I've really looked at this place at night. I forgot how good looking this game was when you just have all these lights, especially with like the emergency vehicles and all the flashing lights and stuff. It's so good. it's so good looking. I love this. I really do. We need to spend more time looking at this place at night. I don't want to build at night. I don't want to play the game when it's dark, but I do need to look at this place a little bit more often when it is dark out, because it just looks incredible. It really, really does. Anyway, something I would like to do is come into this space and just redevelop it ever so slightly, because we do have a lot of demand for a lot of things, and I want to get a little bit more density in here just compared to what we have here at the moment. Now, I don't want to go crazy with buildings in here. I don't want to have stupid amounts of density. So what I'm going to do is just de-zone all of that space, And I want to go through here with some North American mixed housing. I think we'll go for, do I want to do a 2? I think I'm going to do a little 2 by something there. I think we'll do a little 3 by something here. And I think we're going to do some North American medium density row housing just here and here, so that we kind of fill out that space a little bit. We'll get something slightly bigger. There we go. And then for this space, I think what we do, now I could replace this with a one-way road. I could put some parking back here. I think what we're going to do just for, oh, I didn't realize we could have a 2x3 or 3x2 corner building there. That's actually really good. I think what I'll do for old time's sake though, oh, yeah, I think I did mention that there's new parking lots. I mean, I mentioned that we have the new multi-stories. There's also other ones as well. There's like solar powered or solar covered parking lots, which are very, very cool. There's canopy covered, which isn't new at all. There's like a little single row parking lot in here. There's a bunch of them, which is great news. And I'm slightly tempted to put a little single row parking lot down here, or just one of the tiny ones might be pretty good as well. Okay, so the main reason I want to redevelop this space, and the main reason we are redeveloping this space, is just to sort of blend it into the higher density set of buildings that we have in this area. That's why I've gone for much smaller footprints for all of our little mixed use buildings, and it's why I've kept some of the row houses in here, albeit just sort of mostly to surround some new parking lots, which I think is fair enough. The main thing I want to do though is try and do something with this water tower. I don't love it. I don't love that it's still here. I don't really want it to still be there, but there's a part of me that looks at it and thinks, man, I think it has to stay there. I don't think we can get rid of it because it's something I've seen. It's in a lot of movies and TV shows. You'll see a lot of American towns that just have a water tower somewhere in the middle of it because that wasn't the middle of the town when the water tower was first built, you know, 70 years ago, 100 years ago, whatever it was. So I like to imagine that maybe this water tower, maybe this is, you know, a new sort of modern version of a water tower that was built 40 or 50 years ago. But, you know, it's been here in one way, shape, or form for a very long time. So what the city has done is built a viewing deck, which is a platform on the top of the water tower that allows for sightseeing and thus provides the tower with entertainment value. So we can build that right there, which means I could theoretically turn this into something in the middle of a park, which is kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to do. So I want to swap out this road for something a little bit different. I want to get a gravel road through here, which might be a bit weird, but I'm, you know, bear with me. I think gravel road, park, all that kind of stuff. A gravel road right here, and then the new one-way gravel road can sort of go around this thing, and that's just going to be how we get access to the tower itself, which I think is probably fair enough. And I think with some detailing in here, I think with some surfaces in here, I think with some of the new park assets in here, I think we can make this work. I think we can make this look interesting, and I think we can have some fun with this. So what I think we'll do is start by going through here with some paths. I do want people to be able to walk through here. I think that's going to be important. And yes, these paths are, well, they're not gravel, but that's honestly okay. I'm not really super worried about that. And then at this end of things, I think we'll just have a path go right to about there. In fact, you know what? We're going to do this instead. We'll have the paths right about there, sort of spread out a little bit. I don't think we need paths down at this end of things. And then I'm wondering if there happens to be a surface in here that I could use, maybe like a sandy surface that would blend into those gravel roads. That one's actually pretty good. So my thinking would be I use that on these paths. Now you can't see the gravel right now, but that's okay, because all I need to do is get rid of the paths that I built in here and then replace them. I mean, that doesn't blend perfectly, but essentially go in here and replace them with the invisible pedestrian paths so people can now continue to walk through here on little gravel paths as opposed to those paved paths that we had in here before. So that kind of works. That kind of does what I was looking for it to do. We do now need to go in with some grass, and I think there's definitely a temptation to use the manicured grass. I don't think I'm going to, though. I think we're going to stick with the simple grass here. And I think what I'm going to try and do, I I don't actually know if the grass is going to overlap that gravel, so I might actually have to do a little something like this. Or I could just use the fill bucket again, which is going to work pretty well, I think, on these squares. And it actually works pretty well in that corner too. So you know what? We'll use it for pretty much all of this. Maybe give it a slightly larger area so it kind of maybe plays a little bit nicer with some of this, but it does round those corners really, really well. So that makes my life a little bit easier. Then all I need to do is just sort of tidy up some of the edges. And you know, that is making me think that maybe these little gravel paths aren't necessary. It's also making me reconsider just using gravel here in general, because this would be so much easier if I didn't use gravel. So maybe it would be an idea to not use gravel. And I think all things considered, that was probably the right choice to just go with the concrete in here. So we do need to swap out this little bit in the middle here, and then I think we're probably good for the surfaces. We'll go for the concrete right there. I did go for something a little bit lighter than sort of a sidewalk concrete, because I figured this is going to be a nice sort of modern park that we have going on here. I'm also thinking in here could maybe do with something like this urban little parkette thing, and on the other side we could do that square pocket park that we didn't do originally. I'm also thinking these guys should probably actually be facing sort of in this way, so people are encouraged to drive into this space to get here. And then I wonder, can I really should have done the grass last around here. It's proving to be a real pain to get all these surfaces done, but that I think looks much better up this way. Exactly the same thing. Swap you out for this, and we'll do a little something like that. And I like that. It looks a little religious-ish, but that's fine. It looks, I mean, look at it this way and it looks sacrilegious. So we'll not worry too much about it. I totally don't have a tattoo that kind of looks like this. It's for a band. It's fine. It's for Ghost, which, well, you know, depending on your point of view is not really better, but anyway, that's besides the point. I would like to come through here with some nice trees. I think we'll do 8 meters spacing, so we get 3 of them right here. I think we'll do 3 of them right about here as well, and we'll do exactly the same thing on all sides of this, so we get some nice poplar trees around this entire thing. And then honestly, we are probably going to surround this in the same old bushes that I've been putting everywhere else. But I like this. I think it's a good use of the space. It's different. It keeps that water tower. It keeps it functional without, you know, it looks more deliberate. It looks like the water tower is now kind of supposed to be there, and I like that a lot. I'm also wondering, can I change? Oh, I can change the color of it. Oh, okay. Can I get it to be like a nice, yeah. It's been cleaned up a little bit. I think that's important. We could darken down that lower walkway if we wanted to, which I don't really think I want to. And we can change out the blue. Now, I'm going to change it out for sort of that color, which is vaguely similar. It's a little too pink. It's kind of similar to the color that I use in the channel's branding these days. So it's kind of tying it into me, I guess. It's a little bit more pink than that. Like, I think this is a bit more pink than what I use, but that's fine. And then for the rest of this space, I was thinking of doing another housing development in here. I thought that would be oh wow, those are a fair bit bigger than I was expecting. I was thinking of tearing out a lot of this and putting some slightly higher density housing developments in here. I was actually thinking some low rent housing could be sort of interesting. So I think quickly we're going to play around with some kind of new housing development in here. I don't want to get rid of these guys because we do have a need for some smaller commercial buildings, but I want to see what I can do in here. And I also want to play around, you know, with some more of these parking lot roads. So we'll get rid of all of this and we'll have a look at our residential zones. I'm thinking UK, and I'm kind of thinking UK medium density housing could be the shout, because we could just put a building right there and that's instantly going to be kind of interesting looking. I could take that out. I could put a little, road around here so they're kind of set back from the road a little bit. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. And so I think that's kind of what I'm going to do. So let me measure some things. Let me get an alleyway. This alleyway is, what is that? 56 meters from the middle of this road. And if I go 56 this way, it gives us that and that. So I want to put a little alleyway right here, which I know is weird looking given these two intersections, but that's okay. I want to take you out and I want to get myself a little parking road. I'm thinking angled parking alley is maybe what we're going to go for. I don't know how well these are going to connect together. And the answer is, yeah, they connect together. It might look better if I just use one of these roads. It honestly probably would look better if I just used one of these roads, but I don't know that I want to do that. I kind of like the alleyway. Now I will say I like these buildings a lot. They're definitely a little bit taller than I was looking for around here, but they're freestanding, they look all right, and I've also had some fun just recoloring them to be sort of sandstony, and then of course I've brought RGB lighting through here naturally, so they all sort of stand alone a little bit there. They also have, well, some paths around them that I can play with, and I'm kind of excited to do that. Although I'm kind of thinking I'm going to take out these lights. As cool as they are, they don't all line up, and I think I can do better than those lights right there. I'm not going to take out the dumpsters at the back because I think those are kind of important. And then what I'd like to do is start to come through here and figure out these surfaces, which is going to be slightly tricky to do by the looks of it. So maybe the better route would be to just use some regular paths for this, so that I'm not using surfaces for absolutely everything. So if I turn this off and figure out if I can get this to snap to the sides of that building, I absolutely can. So we could go, I guess the entire way down here is probably fair enough. So we'll go to about there, and we'll have this side go to about there. And that seems fine. We'll put some grass kind of around that. I think for in here, we could go down the sides of the buildings. I'm not against doing that. I think it might be easier to just go down through the middle though, with the paths again. So down through there and down through there. We could, if I wanted to, connect out to this road, which I don't think is a terrible idea for these little sections. And I think for the most part, that's kind of all we need to do. It really doesn't need to be overly complicated. I'm just going to put some grass surfaces in there. I'm going to make sure all the surfaces actually match, which I think is quite important. In fact, I kind of wonder if we went in here with some tiles, would it look better? That's, no, it would not, is the answer to that question. No, it would not. Okay. So those surfaces underneath, oh man. Oh, so if I wanted to, if I wanted to change that, it's a fair bit of work. Okay. That's a little unfortunate, but that's fine. That's totally okay. We're just not going to mess with that too much. Okay, so with a bunch of generic commercial zoning in here, which happens to be built on some parking lot roads because I just love them. Although admittedly, it does pose some problems when buildings are specifically on these roads because the buildings need ways in and out, and so we don't always have parking on all of the roads. My point being, I think we're about done for today. I like how this has turned out. I'm a really, really big fan of this space. I did change these buildings out for a different style of UK high density tower. The reason being that I forgot to lock them originally, so some of them upgraded and it completely messed up my surfaces. So I just went in and made it a little bit more simple using some pedestrian paths rather than surfaces. It looks pretty much the same. The buildings are a bit closer to the road. That's about the biggest change. We also have more park space back here, which I kind of like. I don't mind that too much. I think it looks okay, and I might put some actual functional parks in there at some point. But I think for now, we are probably good. I think we've done about all I really wanted to do here today. And I suppose that means we can take a little bit of a look at what this all looks like. Well, what most of it looks like from from ground level. Not all of it's hold on a minute. Is that a bigger problem that we have going on there with it? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hey, they're back. All right. Now I can do. There we go. All right. Are we good? Can I still see the buildings? Good. All right. This game sometimes. Pre-release. The 1.2 hasn't come out yet. It's fine. I'm a really big fan of how this has all turned out. I think it looks really good. I love the parking lot roads. Oh, the buildings are gone again. It just adds such a wonderful amount of detail to a city, and it means you don't need road builder to make parking lot roads anymore. And it means that on console, you're gonna have parking lot roads as well. That's the thing to keep in mind, is all of this stuff. I'm assuming, this is one thing I genuinely don't know. I'm assuming it's all gonna go to console, which is super exciting for console players because code mods aren't gonna be a thing on console. Which means, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to use something like Road Builder, but now you don't need to, at least not for parking lot roads anyway. But I think that is going to do us for today, like I said. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.